Hello everyone. Again, let's have some more information about Adobe Camera Raw. I'm Ali Alfam, an imaging scientist, a photographer, and an author. So just now, let's try to play with another image and see what we can do with Adobe Photoshop. So Adobe Raw. Now I'm going to load a photo that I have taken. This is the JPEG photo which I have got from the camera, and now I'm going to load another photo which is the raw file of the image. Interestingly, for those who are interested, this photo was taken at about midnight in Norway, and as you see, the sun is still out and quite beautiful. Okay, so we have talked about the exposure of the image, and again, when we look at this image, we see that quite a bit of information is clipped towards the darker region of the image. But just in this photo, in my view, this works quite well because we would like to see this contrast between the lighter and the darker images. But just as well, I'm going to push the exposure a little bit up, and I'm going to do this fill light to get some more light into the image. And I'm doing this not because this is how I like the image, but because I would like to explore some more functionalities of the Adobe Raw converter. Okay, so now let's look at something that is called tone curve, which is the second item on this horizontal list. And if I click on this, now if we click on this, we are going to see the luminance histogram of the image. Here we see the color histogram, so the different channels, the red and green and blue, whilst here we are only seeing the luminance histogram. Now what we can do with this is, if we slide the highlight bit up, then we are going to increase the lightness in the light region. So this is a nonlinear transformation of the histogram data that pushes certain levels up and maintains the others. If we do the light, we push it again up, we see that another region of the histogram has been pushed up. So if I go and push the highlights down, you will see that by pushing the light up, it is mainly this region of the histogram that is changing. Okay, now if I was to push the dark ones up, then you will see that it is this region that is being increased. And as you see in the image as well, the image is becoming much lighter. So if I push the light ones down, let's keep it up to the line. Now the line, the diagonal line that you see here, if we don't do anything with the histogram, then this curve that we are getting approaches the line. So if we just keep it where it was, then we will be basically getting back to the line. So basically the line means that we are not going to do anything to the image data. Now if I only push the black ones up, then basically we get more change in the darker regions. If I push the dark ones down, then we will get a darker image. Normally in images you will find that by pushing the dark region down and pushing the highlight up, we get more contrast in the image. So here, as you see, we get an image that has quite a high contrast. Shadows is going to affect another region of the image, which is the region directly after the dark region. These we can also adjust to basically decide where the shadows are going to be. So this is what we can do with the histogram and how we can manipulate the histogram. Normally I do the histogram manipulation after I have decided which level of exposure I want and how much fill light I want. So basically after I have decided which range of the histogram I'm going to be working with. So now let's move on to another item on this menu, which is detail. Now detail has two items on it. One is sharpening and the second is noise reduction. And we can think that sharpening and noise reduction work against each other. The more we sharpen, the more we will show the noise, and the more we reduce the noise, the less detail we are going to maintain. However, we can fine-tune it using Adobe Photoshop. So to start with, I'm going to look for a region where there is visible noise. Now, if you look at a region here, for example, this was in the shadow when taking the photo. So that means that the sensor of the image got less light from this region. So I would expect to have more noise here than I would have, for example, in the highlight region here. So let's go to, for example, 400% on this image. So this is quite high. And now if we go up, all the way up in the image to where we indicated shadows, then we will see this. And this is basically digital noise. This is how digital noise looks. How do we recognize it as noise? It's basically a region that we would have thought would be flat is not flat, it's grainy. So now to show this noise more, I'm going to push the brightness level slightly. And here we see the noise very clearly. So let's go back to detail. And now under noise reduction, we see different items. The one is luminance and the other is color. Now a color image can be divided into two parts in a color space. The one is luminance and the second is chrominance or color. So by changing the luminance, by increasing the noise reduction of the luminance, we will be basically decreasing the noise in the luminance channel. So let's try that. So now, if I push that up, we should be gradually noticing that the flat regions are now flat. And now you see that noise is not as visible as it was before. So if we go back to 0, you will see that it's quite grainy and pixelated. And if we push it up to about 30, then this is starting to disappear. Now let's push it all the way up to 100. And what we notice here is that by reducing the noise completely, we have also reduced the detail. So quite a bit of detail is now lost in the image. So let's go back to 0, and you notice all these bars and the texture on them. If we go to 100, then we have kind of lost that detail in the image. So to counteract that, we can increase the luminance detail. So we can push that up, and now we got some of the detail back in the image. So this is a balancing act. How much I would go, for example, down to the 40 level on this area of the image, and then maybe I would push the luminance detail a little bit to give me that detail in the image. Luminance contrast is again going to do something like the detail, whereby we are going to increase this contrast. Okay, color is the same thing. It's just, it depends on where the noise is. Just now I don't see any visible change, but basically this is going to depend on the chosen image. In one image you will find that increasing the noise reduction in the color channel is going to be beneficial, and in another you will find that it's not noticeable. As I said before, it's always important that when we do something to a detail of the image, that we actually go back and check how this has affected the rest of the image. So here is the image at 100%, and this looks okay. And if we go back and look at the whole thing, we will not see much of the degradation in the image due to noise reduction. Noise reduction is basically smoothing the detail, so we will only see that on the 100% level of the image. Okay, so let's go back and and increase, let's even increase to 200%. And let's try to sharpen this image. Now sharpening is by default in Adobe Raw, it's set to 25, but we can increase that. So now if we push it all the way to 100, you will see that now we are back to a noisy situation. So the noise that we had put at 44 is no more sufficient to actually dampen this sharpening effect. So sharpening, what it does is that it enhances the details, it enhances lines, it enhances details in the image, but also noise is detailed, so by enhancing the details of the image we can get artifacts, and basically that means that we will get an image that is not naturally looking. Okay, the radius of this sharpening is an operation that also comes with a radius. Let's not get into those details, but the more we push this radius up, the more we will get sharpening, not just in the finer details but in the larger segment. So if we put this down, let's push the amount of sharpening all the way to 150 so that we can notice it. So now by pushing it up, we are affecting larger details of the image. We are sharpening larger details. By pushing it down, we are getting the fine details. And this is again a sharpening, balancing act, how we are going to want to have it. Masking, what it does is going to balance how much of this sharpening we are going to actually apply to the image. So if we put it all the way to 0, then the whole image is going to be sharpened, and if we put it to 100, then only a little bit of the sharpening is going to be applied to the original image. So this way we can basically reduce our noise in the image and reduce and increase or reduce our sharpening. So if we go to 0 sharpening, then we will get a smooth image. We go a bit higher up and we get a reasonable amount of sharpening. And you should always check that you browse around your image to see that the result is acceptable to you. So now let's just go again and check. Here we will get quite fine details, but of course because there was quite a bit of noise here in this area, you will see that we have increased the noise and this image does not look natural anymore. So we don't want to do that, but sometimes we might want to do it. So again, we have a tool which is the sharpening and the noise reduction. How we are going to use it artistically is going to depend entirely on us. So finally, let's open this image and compare it with the original. So we close this and this time we choose no. And here we have the original. Let's zoom in a little bit. Now this is the image that we have processed, and this was our original image. So process and original, process and original. Thank you very much. Hopefully I'm going to do a few more of these to cover the whole of Adobe Pro. So let's stop this.